You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? What price would you pay for fame, and what happens when your past finally catches up to you? Amber and Scott discuss MaXXXine and how far they would be willing to go to fulfill their dreams. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
You find yourself in the unique position.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
What would you do?
How do you want to handle this?
What would you do? Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
MaXXXine. I will never do that again. I'm sorry.
Oh, gee, I thought you were going to say the title of this week's film.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is indeed MaXXXine. So in 1980s Hollywood, adult film star and aspiring actress MaXXXine Minx finally gets her big break. But as a mysterious killer stalks the starlets of Hollywood, a trail of blood threatens to reveal her sinister past.
So I'm trying to remember, first of all, just on a personal note here, were you in the LA area when The Night Stalker?
Yeah, no, definitely a California girl who's very familiar with The Night Stalker, which was the killer that we followed in the course of this film.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that lined up with your time here, because I know you were away from California for a little bit. I wasn't sure if that lined up with that or not.
Yes.
And based on that and your own age, holy crap, that had to be legit scary.
I definitely remember hearing people saying, okay, you got to be in by dark. Like, it was a legit, people in Los Angeles were extremely fearful. We have serial killers in California, and the Night Stalker was certainly not the first.
Yeah, but I mean, based on who he was targeting, he basically was like right at your demographic at the time. So that,
yeah. So this film follows an aspiring actress who is currently working in the porn industry, who wants her first breakout film, and she has a PI breathing down her neck, and there is a serial killer active in the area. And oh gosh, it's this film was very mediocre to me. It wasn't particularly engaging, but the one thing that I thought that really struck me is the film started off in this note of where she's a little girl and she's singing for her dad, and they're in front of some sort of church banner. And he says something to her like, what do we always say? And she says, I will not settle for a life any less than I deserve. And I'm like, well, that's good. That's a good thing to teach a little girl. But then she grows up to be in the porn industry.
apparently that's what she deserves.
And working in one of those places where the door lifts up and you see a girl behind the window doing naughty things.
Yeah, I know there's inflation and all, but Homeboy put a coin into that slot to open it. Like, is that a special coin, or did he just drop a quarter in to see titties? I don't know.
This is not my area. I cannot confirm any monetary transaction once it comes to
it's not mine either. I know these things exist. I've never actually seen one with my own eyes.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny. You said it was a mediocre film. I actually enjoyed it. I actually thought it was pretty good for what it was. Now,
they were infusing the fictitious character of MaXXXine into these real life events. So, I mean, from that respect, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But from a what would you do perspective, I certainly looked at it as someone who has dreams and you're still trying to claw and scratch to get those dreams, but you have fallen really far off of the path.
Well, I mean, it boils down to this. I used to joke that I was going to start a website called whatsyourslash.com, and it was just going to be for people in the LA area. And there was no way to monetize this. There was no purpose to this website. I just like the name. And people are going to be like, I'm a writer/waiter.
Oh.
I'm a
right.
artist/ because everyone has a slash. And I mean, her slash kept her in front of the camera.
Yeah, she certainly was. Everyone knew her name, being in the porn industry, but I think she wanted more than that. And she was 32, and she saw her time in the porn industry knowing that it had a limited run on it. So
it's interesting. In 2024, I feel like the porn industry's age gap is now huge. Like, because it's so accessible, you can always find people who are into your thing. But back then in like the 80s, when they're producing stuff to go on to VHS videos and stuff like that, I mean, they want like the 18 to 25 year olds, and once you start pushing up into the 30s, you're just not wanted anymore. So but she was smart enough to recognize that, and she's like, if I'm going to make a move, I'm going to make it now. And
in fairness, she actually looked like she was in her early 20s. She certainly didn't seem to be 32 based on what I perceived her appearance.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a rough freaking town. Like, especially if you're actually trying to be an actor, it's rough. It is one of those, you kind of have to do whatever it takes. And I can't say I ever tried to be an actor. I mean, I've done some background stuff a little bit. I know some people in the industry, and I know how just insanely difficult it is to really get in and do anything. So I understand the whole willing to do whatever it takes, because it might be right at that limit of whatever it takes if you actually want to get that break.
Yeah, I agree. And she was haunted by a past that we never got 100% clarity on what that was. She was involved in some sort of other kill fest in the past.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a killer in Texas who came to a sort of whorehouse, and he basically killed everyone, but she somehow got out.
Yeah.
And
likely no, again, spoilers, folks. If you're planning on watching MaXXXine, please pause this episode, go watch the film and come back. But the killer at the first place was likely the same killer as the second place, which was...
her dad.
Yeah,
her dad. Her dad was the killer. That was a twist.
Yeah, it sure was. But let's be clear. Her dad wasn't the Night Stalker. Her dad was just the killer in these particular ones that were trying to mimic the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
Again, a fusion of real life events and a lot of fan fiction kind of stuff.
So I still never figured out, like, there was that one that one sequence when she's up near the Hollywood sign and she's standing over her dad, and then they cut to like her being famous and going to the movie premiere and being interviewed and all of that, and then they cut back and
then it said 1 month later. Yeah, that was confusing.
Yeah, I feel like that was the envision in her brain of what was going on at that moment was going to take her. She wasn't at that point, and it's, am I willing to do exactly what I need to do to make that happen? And I mean, which pretty much meant pulling the trigger on her dad, which really was probably a pretty easy call anyway, given everything. But
yeah, her dad had just had her tied to a tree and was flaunting knives and fire and brands to brand her with. So yeah, her dad, not a good guy. So him leaving this earth was likely in her benefit.
How does she not realize that her dad is that powerful of a person in Hollywood? Because apparently he was. I mean,
what do you mean?
I mean, they talked about, the PI was talking about how his client had means, didn't care about money, extremely powerful. Like, how does she not realize her dad's in that position?
Oh, I didn't make that connection.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean,
her dad had rallied a bunch of people who were against the film and were protesters for the film that she was in because it had to do with Satan and whatnot. But
even where he seemed to live, or I don't know if he was renting it or whatever, but like up in the hills, then you had to take one of those little cars that like would take you the rest of the way up the hill. I've never seen one of those. Man, you gotta have some rich money if you're getting one of those. Like I don't want anyone near my property.
Yeah, like a trolley. They have those in a lot of downtown areas where you kind of go up a track, up a mountain.
Yeah, like the Angel's Flight.
Yeah, in downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, but it was like going to just someone's house.
Yeah, and those mountains are definitely steep. That's not completely unheard of. So what would you do if you were in a situation where you were on the cusp of your big dream and you had something, we're not going to say a serial killer or a psycho dad or dead friends or any of the extremes that MaXXXine went through, but you were on the cusp of just making the dream happen, but you had some obstacles. Is there a line you wouldn't pass to get over the finish line?
I mean, yes, there is a line for sure. What that line is might depend on what that dream is and exactly how close I am to it. Like if I am going through the last step necessary and then all my dreams come true, my line might get pushed a little bit. But like, does my line go to murder? No, my line doesn't go to murder. I don't need to murder people.
Okay, so good to know. That's where the line is, murder.
Well, the line is the always line is murder. It can go below that.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic too. I think especially when you look at aspiring actors and actresses who just put in so much work for that big break, and her work might have been in the porn industry, but she was still looking for that big break, and her audition, she was good.
Yeah, she cranked out a nice little monologue there.
She did, and that's kind of a good way to look at things is when you actually have the skills and talent to get where you want to go, and it's just a matter of that big break. It's not like you're delusional and you're a porn actress and you're like, one day I want to have Nicole Kidman's job. But if you've actually got some good skills and you're capable of that jump and you have that opportunity and something's messing with it, I can understand.
I mean,
trying to keep it alive.
Facts. There are actors who are better than some of the top names in Hollywood who haven't been discovered and never will be discovered. There are singers who are better than some of the best singers out there who have not been discovered and will never be discovered. It is...
Kelly Clarkson was working as a waitress. I think Carrie Underwood, I think, was also working as a waitress.
You need talent plus luck.
Yeah.
No, actually, talent plus sweat plus luck.
Yeah, I was going to say, you still got to be working and hustling in there, too.
I mean, you can, if you get super lucky, you might not have to sweat it as much, but...
Yeah, some people are legitimately discovered while they're walking down the street. I can't remember who it is, but I know some popular actor or actress. I remember reading their story, and they were a dog walker. So, yeah.
I mean, you can actually stumble into it, but for the most part, no.
Yeah.
So a couple of things that came to my attention, or really one very specifically. Now, obviously, when she goes to the club, she's setting up a trap for the PI.
The private eye that's been following her, that has been hired by, we later find out it's her dad.
So, I mean, obviously that time she's setting a trap, so everything she did with that. But before, when she's getting the wacko yakko and dot treatment and being chased around the Warner Brothers lot, that's an Animaniacs reference. And she jumps into the house there.
The house that was actually Norman Bates' house
from Psycho,
behind the set of the Bates Motel.
And she's trapped in there.
Because this film mostly takes place on, as you said, the Warner Brothers lot and all the interesting things they have there. And
a security guard comes up and questions the PI about what's going on. I have to assume she doesn't have any great plans at this point. Like she's still figuring it out. If I'm her, as soon as I see that security guard, I am coming out and I'm saying, hey, this guy. This guy's trying to kill me.
That's funny.
He has a gun.
That's funny. You should say that. I thought that same thing, too, is if a security guard came out and I was hiding from someone who was trying to get me, I would absolutely come out, too. But also, too, the guy had a gun, the PI was chasing her, and you don't know how things are going to pan out.
Well, but here, logic.
But you think she would have said something at least later after he had been walked away or something. Just being like, I'm in danger, keep an eye on me on the lot.
Here's the thing. If you apply real logic to this, that PI would never have shot that gun. Never.
What do you mean? When?
The PI, might have had a little bit personal against her, but really...
Shot the gun when?
The Warner Brothers lot. When he pulled out the gun, he was using the gun as a threat to try to get her to go where he needed her to go for his client.
Yeah.
So didn't want her dead. Like, that completely blows up everything if he kills her. So logically, her knowing who he is and what his role is, he's never going to pull that trigger because he's just going to blow up everything for himself.
So what would you do?
I mean, I don't know. I might have been like, listen, we both know you're not pulling that trigger. So you could turn your ass around or we can go to the security. Now, I probably would have run it first, too, because when somebody pulls a gun on you right away, I actually have had a gun pulled on me once in my life.
Oh, wow.
It was a very long time ago.
Thankfully, I'm not in that club.
Yeah. And it was super random. It was just a really random thing back in Texas. But your heart, kind of skips a beat there for a moment. You're like, the fuck? But she ran around a bit. Logic, guy's not going to kill her. So I would have felt completely safe coming out of the house at that point and telling the security officer. But even if not, like once they are physically next to each other, even if you're not coming out when there's distance, come out then. Once you see that he's put his gun away, hey, he's got a gun. It's like she was smart in general. You could tell, like she was wily.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was dumb. People in horror movies are dumb.
That is the case with all horror movies. Yes, indeed.
So
if there weren't dumb characters in horror movies, they would be over quite quickly.
Also, it doesn't seem like her thing with the whorehouse in Texas was like she was criminally liable. She might have been morally effed up from it because she watched everyone around her die and she survived. She might be guilty from it, but it didn't seem like she was criminally liable for it. So
it didn't make sense that she was trying to run or hide from that.
When she got the tape, that was, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to the police. Hi, I'm not going to the video store and asking where this tape might have come from. I'm going to the police and saying, this whole Night Stalker thing? I got some shit here that's it's scaring me. And I think the cops would have been like, oh, yeah, no, I get that. That makes sense. So, but again, if you're smart, you don't have a good movie. So,
yeah. So I guess my what would you do thing is if I was a good church going gal, I wouldn't get into porn.
You know what? I'd say that's because words to live by. But you and I actually had this conversation the other day about how this day and age, people make money doing OnlyFans. But in the 80s, if we're just applying it to the 80s, yeah, kids, there's two things you don't do: drugs and porn.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release at least 1 and generally 2 to 3 episodes a week, so we have new content regularly. Until next time.